Tariq says that Europeans associate Islam with violence. There is some truth in that. There is also a very obvious reason for that, which is that Islam is associated with violence.
Watching Douglas Murray in a debate is always like salt in the wounds, as he makes factual and strong arguments that might raise the temperature around him. And now we are going to watch a heated debate between him and a Muslim girl on free speech and the complexities faced by them.
It was not Buddhists who flew planes into the Twin Towers. It was not Hindus or Jews that blew up the London Underground in buses a few years ago. And that simple fact has to be acknowledged if you're even going to start a dialogue. Now,
Murray started with this argument, which is not only bold, but also provides evidence of why Muslims have all these immigration complexities. But he doesn't stop here. He explains how Muslims migrated from their countries to the West and how they spread all over the countries of the West.
I'd argue that Europe has done not too badly, considering the circumstances. In the middle of the last century, there was an almost negligible Muslim presence in Europe. At the turn of the 21st, in Western Europe alone, there were 15 to 17 million Muslims. That's a very fast migration, ladies.
Murray is absolutely blunt, and we all know him for this behavior. But what he's about to say next, the things he's going to put forward in front of everyone, will make the girl question him. He explained how Britain has dealt with the situation and how freely they are living there, as they are enjoying more rights in Britain and other Western societies than any other countries that they belong to. He expresses his seriousness about his quote that they are the people who are involved in violence, as others are not behind the incidents that have happened in the past.
We do have a problem. We have a problem when the failures of Islam throughout the world, the failures of all Islamic societies, come here into Britain. Their intolerance of freedom of conscience, their intolerance of apostates, their intolerance of freedom of expression and freedom of speech.
He went on about how Muslims have hated Western culture as it is not something that is mentioned in their holy book, and this has given rise to intolerance among them about every trivial matter. Up next, the panelist calls the girl, and you will be shocked at how she slams Murray with a smile and makes others laugh as well. Just have a look at how she starts her conversation.
Lady here with the headscarf, and then we'll come to our panel.
I'm a British female. I love this country and I give this country. Now you're calling me a problem. I don't think I am. I think you are.
She doesn't stop here. She goes on complaining about the racism and discrimination that she faced, and she goes on about how people make fun of her. These things that happen to her shouldn't be happening, but we can't deny the fact that people judge each other based on how they look and dress, which is not morally acceptable.
As a Muslim female, okay, my parents might not let me go somewhere late at night because people are racist to me. They tell me to go back home and they hurt me. I got hit by 2 white guys and they laughed at me because I'm a Scafi, okay?
Well, she doesn't stop here either, but goes on to speak about another point and starts talking about religion change-related stuff with another panelist. Well, not all her points were up to the mark, but the things she faced were absurd and unacceptable. We will now have to look at how Murray deals with it and gives a fitting reply to the issue.
Last point is to Mr. Fleming, about the point where you said about the religion, changing religion. Every person has the right to. No one says anything about that. But if you had a daughter or a son that wanted to become a Muslim, would you be happy about that? I don't think so.
After these allegations, Murray was asked to comment on them and share his opinion. Well, one thing that I noticed here is that she just complained about things that faced and didn't like. Some guys laughed at you isn't something that will offend you, but if there's an exchange of racist slurs, then it will be a problem.
I just want to ask you, you heard some of the people from the floor there, the woman complaining about attacks on her because she's described as a Scafi, because she wears a head veil. I mean, that is something that you would regret.
Just watch how Murray deals with them and how he will give a befitting reply. He agrees with some points, but also denies some with proper logic. As I mentioned earlier, the things that she faced are unacceptable in society, and Murray will agree with the fact that this happens due to the prejudices that people have against each other.
It doesn't promote social cohesion.
Nobody thinks that any physical attacks or any such thing could be a good thing to happen. Of course not. Of course there are. Let's make sure we're right.
Talking about prejudice
exists in society. Let's just be absolutely clear as an audience. Prejudice undoubtedly exists in this society.
But it doesn't end with that. He takes on the girl's allegations. He emphasized on the fact that the minorities in these Western countries have grudges and prejudices against each other, but talking about it and making a point here based on an incident where a thug or a racist hurts you isn't going to be the right thing to judge others.
And it is also the case that people, in particularly famously lower socioeconomic groups, are likely to feel hatred for other groups. That is one of the things that has to be tackled, and everyone, I think, in this hall, I'm sure, we're in agreement that that should be tackled. But do not mix up.
Next, he explains his, and Fleming's, the other panelists', views regarding the stuff they read in the Quran, how they interpret it, and how they see Muhammad. This is very serious, so listen to it closely.
Somebody, a thug, a racist, and so on, attacking somebody in a street with the right of Fleming and me to say what we see in the Quran, what we think of Muhammad, and maybe even asserting our right to say so.
Okay, all right, now...
Well, those are some gruesome arguments that Murray presents to defend his point that it doesn't matter who you are or where you come from. The only thing that matters is that no one can hurt someone based on race, caste, or gender. But the Muslims have demanded rights against the things they don't like, and Murray also has a befitting reply for that.
It is not Europe that has let down its Muslims, but the Muslims of Europe that have let down Europe.
He does not just say this for fun, but he backs himself with his other arguments. Murray argues that we have to look at the mistakes that they have made. We can only do something when we can reconcile our actions and admit them.
This is not solely something which we have to say we can never reconcile. Of course we can reconcile this, but we need to be honest about it. We need to be frank about it, and we cannot avoid things just because they are unpleasant. And if there were one thing I would wish Muslims in Europe could learn today, as fast as possible.
He goes on and on about the fact that the Muslims of Europe have failed Europe and how this is the blunder that they have committed, and they have to learn from it as soon as possible.
Right in this society not to be offended. You have no right to say that because you don't like something you can commit violence, or you would like something to be stopped or censored. You have no right to have more hate laws or hate crime laws or hate speech laws just to defend Islam.
He takes on the Muslims to look deeper into themselves and not to cry about everything they don't see around them according to Islam. They should not hate the laws of the country they are living in after fleeing from their own. At last, he has a great message for all of them.
Muslims of Europe have to realize that a society in which even your deepest feelings can be trodden upon is the only society worth living in. And the sooner we can learn that, the sooner that Islam can learn that within Europe, the better.
Muslims in the West should learn from their mistakes or the mistakes that the countries they once lived in have made. They have to be humble and try to align themselves with the culture of the countries they are living in. Well, it is very clear here that those who are migrating to another country should align themselves with the laws and regulations of that country. We all need to respect each other's religion, gender, and choices, but that doesn't mean you can commit a crime if you don't like something. One should be mindful of his, her actions and should look out for others rather than poking their fingers in the development of society and complaining about everything that they don't like about someone or something. At last, we can convey kindness and empathy toward others to have a respectful and peaceful society.